Hello everybody, let's look at some damage impact of certain weapons and jewels on the Ice Shot skill. I'm currently at 423,000 sheet DPS, but as you can see I'm not taking still attack speed node here or the attack speed node there, and I do take things like first approach, which is not in sheet DPS. On my amulet I have preemptive strike, which is also not sheet DPS, and this damage now goes up with my new bow here. So this is a really expensive new bow. It has everything we need. It has the very high crit chance, it has the high critical damage, it has 5 projectile skills, and a lot of elemental damage. And you actually see what it does not have is a lot of physical damage. It has some, but not a lot. If this bow had also very high physical damage, it would cost multiple mirrors. There is some really high physical damage bows on the trade side, but they all cost a mirror or more. And this bow here, at least, even if it's expensive, costs maybe 500 divines. A lot of divines, but not even close to a mirror or multiple mirrors. And what I tried to show you today is a few ways of how the weapon impacts damage, and also, for example, the jewels. If you look at a jewel like this, this is not a cheap jewel, but it's also not super expensive. The expensive part here is the damage bonus gained from equipped quiver, and if I take this out, I go from 423,000 to 391. So that's over 30,000 damage with a single jewel. But then if you look at this jewel here, it does not have quiver damage, and that generally makes it cheaper. It does have double crit, which is also not cheap, but you could replace one of those crits with maybe projectile damage or something like that. And this jewel without quiver damage, it also gets me down even further. So this jewel actually does more damage than the other one with the quiver. It adds more to my build, and it, generally speaking, without quiver, it's cheaper. So if you find jewels like that, um, then you can maybe save some money by avoiding the very high cost elements like quiver damage on your jewels, and they will still do a lot for you. Now let's look at some bows. I have a bow here that is actually quite cheap. I think I had this one on trade before I put it here in the video for maybe 5 divines or something like that, so not much. Then we have a bow here. First, let's go back to this one. You see it does have a little bit of critical hit chance, but very low. A bit of critical damage, a bit of attack speed, which I don't like, but it gives you damage, and very low physical. A bit of elemental damage, but this is not a great bow. This is a starter, but it's okay. This bow here has a lot of physical damage, as you can see. It has critical damage bonus and attack speed, but it clearly does not have the critical chance, which is usually the first thing I want to have. So this bow here maybe is in the, I don't know, maybe 40 divines range or something like that, and we will see what it does damage-wise. If we go further, this bow here now, it starts getting really good. It has very high critical hit chance, it has critical damage, it has projectile skills, and very high physical damage. This bow is probably 200 or more divines. It does not have elemental damage, but it's already a very good bow, and you'll see how the damage evolves with these. And then this one is kind of a step up. With the corruption, it has 3 of the soul cores that give you critical damage bonus, so that makes up for lacking critical damage bonus in the affixes. And now this one has pretty high physical damage. It has a lot of elemental damage with the fire damage, and the elemental damage is an affix, high crit chance, good projectile skills, and the dexterity is kind of useless for us. And then as you see, my current bow, the really expensive one, just one step up from everything. Now let's see what that does in terms of a damage. If we go to the very cheap bow and just put that in here,
Shocking.
you still see 200,000. I mean, that's good damage, right? You can easily clear everything in the game with 200,000 ice shot damage, no problem whatsoever. So that's with a pretty cheap bow. Not super cheap, but cheap enough, right? If we switch to this one here with a lot more physical damage, but no critical hit chance, what you see is that the damage is actually not going up crazy much. 13,000 more. It's nice, but it's not the world, right? So these are actually quite similar in terms of damage, and that's really just because we're lacking the critical hit chance on this one, even though the physical damage is super high. And for other builds, maybe that's okay. Maybe this bow is better for a build that is not an ice shot build, but ice shot really wants to have that critical hit chance on the bow. Now let's go one level up, or a few levels up actually, because this is already a very good bow here. So if we put that one in, you'll see the damage actually jump up 370,000. So now we're getting somewhere. But this bow is still less than half the price of my current one. So you can get up very close, right? Uh, and you don't have to pay crazy amounts of divines for it. Another step up will be this one here. So here we see that the affix of the critical damage bonus is nice, but if you get a corrupted one with 3 soul cores in, it's actually pretty close. Because if we put that one in, we go slightly down from the previous one. But what you see is you actually get more here, I believe. Let's see, 205,000 average damage, because there is also a difference in attack speed implicit of the bow. And this one, 207, alright. So pretty much the same, just depends on how you want to play this. I don't really like this one here with the dexterity, because the dexterity via Hova is translated into attack speed. So the difference in damage is not necessarily pure damage, but also mingled up with the attack speed. That is not very nice. So these two here, as you can see, very good bows for this build, giving you close to 400,000 damage with my setup, and that's already a very good one. And then of course my current bow just giving you one last jump, but that's a lot of money right there. And then another thing maybe against the darkness we could talk about. You see I currently use one with fire and cold, and that's much cheaper than, for example, cold and light, or even fire and light. Lightning damage and cold damage also specifically is very expensive. I just upgraded to this one because it has 5% of fire damage, which is really useful. Before I was using one with fire and lightning, which is really good damage. So the fire damage here is actually much cheaper than cold or lightning, and it gives you a ton of damage in your build. If I take this out, I go from 423 to 243, so nearly 200,000 of damage just with one lousy jewel. So this one here, the moral here is just get fire damage. It helps you a lot. Why not? You don't need cold and light or anything like that. You could even start with fire and maybe something that gives you intelligence or dexterity or something like that. That will boost your damage a lot, and you don't have to pay hundreds of divines. I think one with 4% fire and 4% lightning, you can get it for 20 divines. 20 divines is a lot, but it's not hundreds of divines that you pay for lightning and cold, for example. So you see, there is options here where you can push your damage up without completely breaking your bank. You see the difference between a few good to great bows. And yes, so jumping up to that one here with the extremely high rolls on all the 4 last affixes is insane. But even that bow is not even, I guess, by current exchange, right? This is maybe half a mirror. This is not even close to the mirror tier bows that you could buy, and it gives you more than enough damage. So this is really it for today. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. And these bows here, all these 4, they're on the trade website, but as you've just seen, they're not super cheap, but you can currently see what they can do in your build. So if you can find something similar to, let's say, this one here or that one there, you're going to be more than set up. And even the cheapest bow here at 200,000 damage, you'll clear everything in the game, no problem. Good luck. Let me know if there's any questions.